my immersion into the tantric energy field came about many years ago inadvertently. I wasn't looking for it. My time in India many years ago, simply by being in India, which perhaps many years ago was somewhat wilder than it is now, but still has that wild essence, was an introduction to the essence of Tantra, not on a philosophical or intellectual or knowledge-based level, but totally experiential. That's what I mean by inadvertently. Why experiential? Because it invited me, my time in India invited me through the everyday interactions to surrender, to soften and open, to soften all resistance, and to open to what is, what is, what is. Yeah, India is a country of many extremes. India is a country that really can shock us if we have not been introduced to that, the extremes of poverty, and at the other end, the extreme of a richness, yeah, that comes in all ways, richness of color, richness of life itself. And in the perhaps more remote areas, a great fear that can arise, yeah, when one is outside of one's Western matrix. And for me, a great fear arose. Sitting on the beach at night with nobody there, deserted. I wouldn't even call it a beach, a fishing alcove. Nobody there, pitch black. And so on, many experiences. So it pulled me into the field of surrender, yeah, through the mind, through the body, through the emotions. And with that, in the vicinity of Osho's frequency field, he was not in his body at the time, but it's a tantric field in the sense that it's all about letting go of resistance, undoing resistance of the mind, of the body, and of the emotions, the whole energy system. So when I returned to the United Kingdom, to London, where I lived in the city, something had fundamentally changed. A shift in perception and an attitude, if you like, an approach naturally, energetically to life, which was simply one of surrender. So whether it's a circumstance, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a feeling, all of it was gradually, naturally, without effort, met from a place of non-resistance. And this continued for some years and deepened over time until a moment came, and I don't want to go into a full description of this, but let's say that was awakening to true nature took place. And I'm saying this because although it was a realization of non-dual awareness. it came through the doorway of a tantric relationship or way, relationship to life or way of being with life. Very often, the non-dual doorway, if you like, is one of pointing to that awareness, the fact of awareness, the non-dual awareness. It's undivided. Yeah? And if one goes all the way, if you like, that becomes a tantric intimacy with all things without being defined by anything. But very often the doorway of non-duality can just stop there, and it becomes a kind of detachment, an avoidance of the rich rawness of life, and an avoidance, as if we are somewhat elevated above it or detached from it. And that creates all sorts of problems and sticking points. But in my case, it was through the doorway of the tantric field. Again, not because I was following any tantric teaching, but just energetically, that I came to non-dual realization. They're one and the same. And I say all this because what we are embarking on in this journey over 7 weeks is this energetic immersion into the field of empty awareness, the unified field of empty awareness that shines through everything. And in this way, we are going beyond the duality of mind's veiled perception. In the conventional way, through the ego identity, the default position, we see through the mind's veil. And the mind's veil, well, there are many veils. Veils of beliefs, veils of this shouldn't be happening, this should be happening. Unexamined beliefs, opinions, standpoints, positions, and definitions of ourselves. In other words, how we identify ourselves. I am this or I am that, based on our experience and based on our conditioning. The final veil is the veil of separation between me as a separate individuation, and life itself. And that creates a whole host of erroneous perceptions that life is doing this to me, life is happening to me, or I can control life or push away life. It's a very subtle veil, but it's at the core of separation. When we go beyond that, which is a realization that there is no separation, life and me are one. It's not that the individuated self completely dissolves. It's the boundary that is created by mind. Ultimately, it's all mind. The belief, or the perception, that I am a boundaried self. Creates a myopic view, the myopic vision of me identity. And then I am separate from life. And then life does good things to me or life does bad things to me. And therefore I am either in resistance or in grasping. This is the root of suffering. So when we start to undo that boundary of perception, mind and body are one. The boundary of perception, something fundamentally changes. We start to see from an unbounded view. That doesn't mean that things change. A table is a table, a microphone is a microphone, and so on and so on. In the world of form, that doesn't dissolve either. But rather, we are not constantly focused on boundaries. And the place where this becomes important is when it's a boundary of me and life. And me is a whole conglomeration of my beliefs, my ideas, my opinions, my standpoints, my hurts, my successes, my failures. That boundary starts to come undone. When that boundary starts to come undone, then we are not being limited by our ideas, our standpoints. They become less important. That's not the veil through which we are seeing life. And then we can really be intimate with life, not just on the periphery and what happens or doesn't happen, but from the depth, from the core of you, from the innermost of you. It's as if the innermost of you is meeting or at one with the innermost of life, the innermost, not the periphery, the surface, although it softens the surface too, because then what happens or doesn't happen, what I feel or what I don't feel, what I think or what I don't think, what I have or what I don't have, becomes less important. This is not a denial or a detachment. On the contrary, there is a great enjoyment of all that happens, good, bad, or ugly. Enjoyment. It's rich, it's intimate, but it doesn't define you, because who you are is that which has been energetically realized, not intellectually realized, energetically realized as the unbounded space, the unbounded field of awareness that is always here, come what may. This is non-duality, but on a much deeper level.